Welcome to Hip Hop Now Podcast. If you're from the future, you know what to do. Get your ass out of here. Don't disrespect the legend. Hip hop is here to stay. Let's get right into the business. What up, y'all? I am your host, Vegas, and this is Hip Hop Now Podcast, a podcast specifically designed to keep you caught up on all things hip hop music and culture that happened throughout the week. Big shout out to the supporters over at patreon.com/hiphopnow. The link to your questions is in the description of this episode. 50 years of hip hop. We must keep saying that because the end of this year is on the, if you're from the future, you're already in 2024 when you're watching this. Come on now, get on out of here. But it's in our sights. We can see it. It's there. And that means for this podcast, for your viewing and listening pleasure, top 5 of the year. Now, in previous years, because I'm going to divert real quick, but in previous years, I've done something where I've done like an episode where I'm like, okay, there's the top 5 of the year episode that's going to hit in like December. But before that, there's like a best albums of the year. And I just go through a whole list of albums, you know, from this year, right? 2023. And, you know, I found that to be a little crazy, you know, because they were like last year, I think I had like 20 some albums. And sometimes it's just the nature of the beast, right? Like with hip hop, we're in a place now where you can get 20 really good albums in one year, if not more, or projects in general, because artists tend to release like somebody like Ransom, for instance. Like Ransom has like 3 or 4 projects this year alone, him, and it's quality work. Now, of course, I'm not gonna put all 4 albums on a list, but sometimes all 4 are damn near worthy to be there. Same thing with Nas. What he dropped? 2 albums in 2023. One will definitely not be on the list, but you see what I mean? So this year, what I'm going to do, there's going to be a top 5, but there will also be a top 10 like runner-ups. Like I'm going to just dedicate myself to cutting the fat and saying these are my top 5, but these are the albums or projects that could easily, in any other situation, have made my top 5 of the year. And just a little warning, everything I pick isn't just because that's what everybody likes. Like it has to be like really quality work. And sometimes the only thing beyond, and that it doesn't mean that it's not quality, but the only thing beyond that, where I'm not looking for an album to check all these boxes, is if somebody just put out something that's just beats and bars and it's just pure hip hop and it's just dope, right? And there are a couple of those this year. And I'll just say this, for those who've been watching this show, who've been listening to this show, there are a number of albums I reviewed that I was like top 5 right now. Like it's that good. Some of them won't be in the top 5 because, again, as you continue to listen to these projects, some joints kind of, I started to feel like, it's not bad, but I'm not as excited as I was when I first heard it. But then there are those, my top 5, that every time I go back to it, the same feeling I had when I first heard it comes right back. And in 1 or 2 cases, my mind was changed from my initial review. So there you have it. Big shout out to hiphopdx.com, allhiphop.com. Shout out to them. The Source Magazine .com. Sometimes, you know, I don't know, whatever. And a couple of other places where I get my stories from. Let's get right into the business. So Drake, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, decided, yo, Scary Hours 3 is on the way. Now, if you don't know what Scary Hours is, it's typically like a EP, or basically it's a series, right? Like how you have Nas has the King's Disease series, and Kendrick has the what is it, the Heart series. Drake has the Scary Hours series. And as a Drake fan, to me, that tends to be the best of his music, right? From a rapping standpoint. It is the only opportunity, the majority of the time, where we typically get old bars rapping Drake, right? Now, don't take my words out of context. I'm not exaggerating it like he could be on a level with this one or that one, but it's good. That's what I'll say. It's good. And this is the rap, this is the Drake I like, right? So he put out an album this year for all the dogs. I believe I reviewed it on here. I did not like it. I mean, I'm a Drake fan, but I just, it was just the most redundant, dead, style switching, formula making a Guinness ass album I've heard. I know it's a kid's show, but the kids can say ass, okay? But I had ever heard. And he's done it before, but sometimes he had mix of records on his albums that you'd be like, oh, okay, maybe I don't really care for that one, but I like these. Not for all the dogs. Now, typically, or just for example, Scary Hours 2 last year was 3 songs, right? But when I tell y'all, no exaggeration, I was listening to those 3 songs every day. Every day. Now, it did, Scary Hours didn't make my top of the year, but I just liked it. And it was quick. And when I would go back to the first track, I just would go for the ride and go back to the first track again at the end and just go for the ride again. So I had big expectations for Scary Hours 3, mainly because I really liked the last project. Well, I feel the same this time. And probably even more so, which is crazy. Scary Hours 3 is now 6 songs, I think. Let's just confirm that. Let me go to my staff of none and confirm. Let's see. Yeah, 6 tracks. But they tacked it on the end of For All Dogs as a deluxe edition. So it's like For All the Dogs, Scary Hours 3. Please don't do that. We know you wanted that album to be something big, and nobody really liked it because they stopped talking about it. Joe Budden said what he had to say, and we all didn't really care for it. We all felt the same. But when you want to talk about a comeback, and I get it for business purposes, man, you can't just throw your album to the side like, all right, y'all didn't like that. Hate it. I mean, Eminem did it when he put out that, what was it, Revival with the flag on the front. He going at Donald Trump. That album was garbage. It was the worst. It got to be the worst Eminem album I ever heard. But then he came out with Kamikaze. He didn't take Kamikaze and tack it on the end and call Revival Deluxe or whatever it was called. He just said, okay, I didn't like that. Here's something else, right? Here's something more your speed. So I kind of wish he had separated this from that project, because it's just weird for me every time I go to listen to it. I gotta scroll down to when the Scary Hours tracks start 1 through 6 just to listen. It's just weird. Like, yo, just give us that separately. So for those of you who feel my frustrations, well, all I did was take those 6 songs and make a playlist and call it Scary Hours 3, and voila. I don't have to go through For All the Dogs. This project or this EP or whatever, or this release is, again, 6 songs, 1 feature being another song with J. Cole. It's rapping Drake, like rapping Drake, not Migos flow, not I'm with 21, can you do something for me? None of that trash. This is just straight rapping Drake. This is battle Drake, right? On this project, and I'm gonna see if I could line them up as far as who he dissed. He dissed Kanye, he dissed Pusha, he dissed Joe Budden, of course, and I feel like somebody else, but I can't remember who that is. Um, which is kind of weird because this dude this is how we get good music from you. Joe Budden gotta straight say your album's trash, and everybody else gotta talk about it being trash, and the momentum die down, and now all of a sudden, you kind of giving us what we want. Like, this is what we want, man. Do this. Get mad. Whatever it may be. So the songs on the album are, or the EP is Red Button, Stories About My Brother, The Shoe Fits, Wick Man, Evil Ways featuring J. Cole, and You Broke My Heart. I do not skip not one of those joints. Total time is 23 minutes. Y'all know I like the short, not that short album, but it's cool with me. I'm going to be bumping this. Now, is this going to be in my top 5 of the year? I doubt it, but it's definitely a candidate for top 10. There's a lot of songs. I mean, the majority of it is a lot of reflections off of just things he don't like, from dudes to on Stories About My Brother, where I think he kind of, that's where the Joe Budden stuff comes into play. The Shoe Fits is really crazy though. Really crazy. Like it's not that Drake is this technical bar smith, right? Or you gotta pull out your calculator and get the algorithm together to understand and be like, oh, he's a genius. No, it's just that the things that he has to say are very relatable to men and women, and funny in some cases. I prefer this Drake, right? Don't make threats because nobody believes you. You may be capable of doing everything you say, but there's a lot of us who don't believe you. So don't do that in your music, because we're here for the music, not the other stuff. But when Drake does this, I'm here for it. I like it. And I'm a bigger fan of the R&B sing-songy Drake more than the rap Drake. Just because I like the production that typically surrounds those types of songs when he makes them. But this joint I really like. And just a sidebar, there's a lot of albums, one in which I'll be kind of talking about in another story, that were released today, from like Lil Wayne and 2 Chainz having a joint together. Who else? Now I'm forgetting, Danny Brown. So there's a couple of joints that all released today that are all worthy of checking out. But I went for Drake first when I was in the gym, and I'm in the gym and I'm like, this is what I want to hear. Like, I want a little, give me a little soundtrack. This is as far as satisfaction, not the music. This is what I wanted from Meek Mill and Rick Ross when I heard Shaq and Kobe, their single. I thought, I'm gonna be rocking this joint, and nah, man, it's like it was. Well, you could just check them out the video. I did a whole review on that. It's not bad, but this Drake joint is cool, and it's only one feature, and I think I think it's pretty dope. So just so you know, if you are not a Drake fan, Scary Hours 3 will not make you one. Same guy, same emotional, I ain't gonna be your friend. Drake, that's always been there. But guess what? We know people like him, and that's what makes it relatable. That's fine. I make jokes about it, but you go look at my music collection, I got a lot of Drake joints because I'm not a hater. I like certain joints. And when I want to get my boom bap bag, I don't listen to Drake. Okay. I know who to go to for that. But if you like Drake, if you like rapping Drake, like if you like if you like 0 to 100 Drake, this for the boom bap cats. Like, yo, I like that joint. I think you'll like this. I think you will, but you let me know in the comment section below. Legendary producer Eric Sermon says that hip hop is stuck in one place. Now, I think I saw this interview, so let's find out. I'm getting this from Hip Hop DX, and they're getting it from Say Word podcast. Let's see what he says. And quote, I just think that hip hop is just not hip hop. I just think that they should change the name. No disrespect, but that's not what it is. Wow. Hip hop can evolve, but this is not evolving. Evolving is Melly Mel to Rakim stage to the whole nine to Wu Tang to Murder Inc. No. DMX, that's evolving. Cameron, Dipset, that's evolving. Let me just give y'all a disclaimer. And this is no shade. If Eric Sermon said, hey, I'd like to produce a 6-song EP with you, I'll be in his house right now because EPMD was my favorite group. Uh, Eric Sermon was like my favorite producer for a long time. And, I just like funk, and they use a lot of funk beats and stuff. So there you have it. He's a legend. But sometimes when I watch him in numerous interviews, it comes across sometimes as stream of consciousness, right? Meaning he starts talking about a thing and he talks about a lot of different things, and sometimes he can contradict himself. Now, maybe he didn't mean certain things in a certain way, and he didn't catch that he said this earlier, and now he's saying something else that's the opposite, because it's stream of consciousness. He's just going. So it's not like calling him a liar or whatever, but sometimes I grain of salt when I hit play on an Eric Sermon interview, but the man has a point. Now, for the longest time, I didn't like the idea of basically looking at today's rap as a whole other genre. Like, don't call it hip hop, call it something else. But you can't do that when the dudes are rapping. It may not be the rapping you like, but what they're doing is rapping. They're not singing, they're not playing instruments, so they're not musicians. They're rapping. We just don't like it. Right? We don't think it's good, right? But it's still hip hop, it's still rapping. So I get that. But the point is not about how they make the music they make, right? What they do is hip hop, right? Rapping, the beat making, sampling, whatever it may be, it's hip hop. But I gotta agree. There needs to be like a pause on it, or let me just say this: the majority of the rappers today that are hot, they do not evolve the culture. They actually set it back, right? And it's not about lyrical skill. It's the simple fact that in hip hop, you cannot make a 20-song album and talk about the exact same thing on every song. Even still, there are those who may have 3 concepts on a 20-track project, right? Like, oh no, he was talking about his mother on it when he said my mama lived. The whole song ain't about that, fam. He brought it up, but then he got back to Wraiths and Ops and everything else that's always being said. Uh, the flows aren't evolving the culture. You know what I'm saying? Because you could talk about what your time is, and I mean, it is what it is. Some things are going to be similar to pastime or whatever. Just it's just 2023 or whatever. But I just find what Eric Sermon's saying to be true, but you have to put an asterisk next to it, because there are those that are evolving and are carrying the torch. But there's only but so much evolving you can do within a genre before you have to just start doing what was old, because what's old is new again. Remember, you heard that before, right? What's old is new again. Sometimes that's what it takes for somebody to take something that's older and evolve it. So a lot of it is based off of something that came before it, but maybe you're just doing it in a new way, right? You're not carbon copy. And maybe that's what he means, right? Like, there was Rakim, but then it was Nas, right? Similar cadence, In some cases, probably similar flow at a point in time. But Nas's lyrical structure and ability was the next step of where Rakim was or is or whatever. And I know in hip hop, you can't overcomplicate it, you can't oversimplify it. You just have to go with it, right? Like for example, Griselda being popular is what's old is new again. I remember an article where Benny the Butcher said that they could have rapped over them trap beats like that and just did it because they knew that was the wave. Like, yo, I could rap over that. I could do that. But they felt the need to do what they were doing. And in doing that, because of the saturation on the radio of these one track rappers, these, one hit fly by night, even they fans don't even check for their second album like that. Uh, it was just too much of that. So the universe balanced the scales. Then you had Griselda, and then that opened up the door for cats who were already doing it, but now they got a brighter shine on them, like Rock Marciano, Stove God Cooks, all these different like boom bap dudes. They got a better look now because that appetite for boom bap never left. It's just that most people who aren't, under the underground or at every show, in every forum, on social media, who may love that music, have no idea or didn't that it existed. Today, they just thought what was on the radio was it. That's what hip hop is. I'm good, fam. I'm CEO over here. I'm gonna be over here, right? But then when they got some appeal and some exposure and started working with other artists who you may like, well, then you expose them. So in some ways, I agree with where hip hop is. I don't agree it should stop because I think it's more diverse now, and there's nothing wrong with that. Evolving can only go but so far before it evolves back into what it was in some kind of way. And that's what's great about today because it's happening. Because we can name three artists right now that are totally different that have attention. And I'm not talking about the big three. I'm talking about, let's just say, Benny the Butcher, right? He a throwback, boom bap kind of dude. He's a throwback, right? Then there's Tyler the Creator. He could do the boom bap, but he could do a whole bunch of other different things. I mean, these are two different people. There's Migos, right? Migos used to get clumped together with all the mumble rap, but honestly, they had a flow that everybody else bit off of. What's more hip hop than that, right? The flow was unique to them. And when you listen to, well, like, because I listened to a couple of joints, even though I kind of like the solo records, albums, projects as a whole more than their albums as a group. I kind of like songs here and there. Um, their subject matter wasn't, I mean, it was some of the same, don't get me wrong. They from a certain generation, so you're gonna get some of that. But their personalities came through more. It wasn't, you didn't have to look at them in order to say, oh, he's different from him or him and him. It was what they would say. That's hip hop. Your identity is coming through in your music. Then plus they big Michael Jackson fans, so you already know. But that's dope, right? So in a lot of ways, we have what we want, right? We don't have to swing everything back to a certain type of hip hop that we grew up with because that's what we miss. All of it is available. You can ignore the other names I said and just say, yo, I just like Cole and Kendrick. That's who I listen to. That's dope. If you don't want to hear any of them, you just want to hear no drums, disinterested rap like like Bodie James, you can. You know what I'm saying? And to another example, just to end it off, you have a dude like Nas from another generation working with an artist from a younger generation and doing big things. So I think and this has been happening a lot with a couple of cats from a certain era. I think they need to stop pretending everything is dead. I think they should not lead with that. Just put something out and make it crazy. Just put it out. Nobody asked for Hit Boy and Nas. They wanted that. King's Disease is coming out. We loved it. And then it became a thing. So, like, at the end of the day, even though I agree with the notion of hip hop is stuck in some regards, there's a lot of, what is it, de-evolution happening, like he says, with a part of the culture, but it doesn't necessarily dominate the culture, right? Like what you like, go out and support it, and all of it'll grow all at the same time. And what's not really good and people get tired of, it's going to fall off. So there you have it. And lastly, if you do not know, Andre 3000 of Outkast is back. Now, recently you may have seen him, in viral videos in different places, just walking, playing the flute, looking almost disheveled until you look down at his feet and be like, oh, he stayed with a fresh pair of Jordans though. So don't sleep, because I peeped out. I was like, that's the same dude. Look at his feet. But nevertheless, he's back. And he has the long-awaited solo album that people wanted. Now, people like myself just want one last Outkast album. I don't care about solos. I think we kind of got that within their double album. But he's back. And he has a solo album that just came out. It's an hour and 27 minutes, but it's only 8 songs. Each song is a sentence. Like literally, it's a sentence. And the album's called New Blue Sun. But before you go ahead, the person that's under the rock who doesn't know any of this, it starts off at the top of the description of this album. It says, warning, no bars. I'm not going to read anymore. It says no bars. Warning, no bars. In quotes. It's a flute album, y'all. Yeah, he playing the flute on record. And the category is not hip hop. It's also not jazz. It says alternative. Now, a young man that's as like myself, I listen to all kinds of music. If I'm intrigued enough about it, and if I hear something I really like it, does not have to be boom bap. It doesn't have to be a different era of rap. It doesn't have to be rap. If I like it, I like it. I'm going to get it. I'm going to listen to it. But this is not what people expected, right? For damn near 20 years, people wanted an Outkast follow-up. For damn near 20 years, people wanted a Andre 3000 solo album. Now, Big Boy has released a couple of solo albums that are great, but nobody listened. Why? Because it wasn't Outkast? But it's Big Boy. We know him. But now it's Andre's turn. And there are no bars on his album. It's only flute. So, okay, with all the jokes aside, I listened to his interview on All Songs Considered, which was an exclusive. I don't think they did the interview. I think somebody else did the interview and they got the exclusive rights to the audio or whatever. But nevertheless, I listened to that before the album came out. And from the mouth of Andre 3 Stacks himself, he said, no bars. He said why he's been playing the flute, why he's choosing to do this instead of a solo rap album, why won't he rap? But the interview was great because it answered all the questions that people like to make up answers for without even asking the questions, right? The man is saying it himself. So you can stop making up your own stuff on Twitter. This is what he said about everything you brought up. But it's not just him playing the flute. Mind you, I haven't listened to the entire album yet, but I already know from what he described and what I skimmed through to begin with. He essentially has a band playing with him, not a big band, but he has other players with him, right? Somebody on percussion and all that. So it's not just flute music. But I will say this about people who are upset or overplaying Andre 3000's project, especially before it came out. I think sometimes some people are so in love with the definition of artistry that they don't recognize it when they hear it or see it, right? They don't pay attention to the actual meaning. They're just in love with the idea of the meaning. They're in love with the idea that this dude just put the overcoat on and walked outside with the Jordans on. He kind of looked like Omar from The Wire a couple times when I saw him. Kind of did. But with the flute. And they saw that and like, oh, he's free. Then there are those like myself, because I like to joke, but then there are those that kind of take it too far, where they're laughing at it. What's crazy is that he's fully aware of all of that, and he don't care because he is a true artist. For him, it's about expressing himself, not compared to his former work, not compared to anybody else who's ever played the flute. That's what social media, that's what y'all do on social media. Y'all argue about things that weren't even brought up because somebody dumb said he's the greatest flute player ever. And we like, whoa, you ever heard of Bobby Humphries? What you talk about? Okay. But I will say this. I'm a music fan. I talk a lot about hip hop. I've done a lot of hip hop things. I mean, when you see me in my casual clothes, I am hip hop. When you see me, you already know I probably like hip hop when you see me, and you'll be right. But again, my music collection contains everything from Kid Cudi to Jimi Hendrix to Prince to Michael Jackson to Diddy. We ain't gonna talk about it. Stevie Wonder, you know what I'm saying? Like Travis Barker, Rage Against the Machine, Lenny Kravitz. I like what I like. I just do. And I'm open to listen to artists do their thing. Now, I'm not going to be one of those dudes who are brainwashed and try to make it seem like it's better than it is. I listened to Lil Yachty's rock album, and guess what? It's better than his rap music. I'm sorry. I liked it a lot. And I'm like, why don't you just do this? Like, stop doing hip hop. You are not good at that. But I think you kind of cool on this, so you should do this. So again, if I could listen to Lil Yachty's rock album and give him a chance when I've never liked him as a rap artist, I could listen to someone who I think is one of the greatest MCs of all time in one of the greatest groups of all time. I can listen to him play the flute. It's fine. Now, not 8 tracks of solo flute playing. I cannot do that. But if it's good, it's good. So I don't choose to review it on here. That's why I hadn't listened to it yet, because if you're going to make alternative music that's more like ambient sound and it's kind of more like, to me, it's one of those things where if you're a jazz head or you like bands, when you go to shows, some of us watch the bands, like we watch them play the instruments, we watch them do their thing and how they create the sounds. So this is cool. I just hope there's enough there that I can hear without having to be at a show and see them do it, right? I think I'm going to, if it happens, I think I'm going to try to go to a show for Three Stacks, because I want to see him play, and I want to see the other cats in the band play. But I will say this: This is hip hop. This is a hip hop podcast. And I feel like there's nothing wrong for anybody who's wanted a Andre 3000 or Outkast album all this long to be somewhat disappointed. You can't be upset, but you can be disappointed. But I say to that, he's giving you a lifetime's work of classic material, whereas some artists, some rappers cannot even give you one. So enjoy the music he gave y'all. And if you feel open enough to listen to alternative music or jazz or whatever people want to call it, even though it's labeled as alternative, then check it out. But don't wait for him to say forever, ever, forever, ever. He's not going to say it. It's going to be straight flutes, fam. So you're going to hear, it's going to have flutes when you be ready for the flute. Okay. Follow me on Twitter and all of that, and I'll probably give my opinion once I really get a chance to listen to it. But I don't know. Leave your comments in the comment section below. Let me know. Are you mad or you listen to the Flute album? You like, yo, I kind of like flutes now. Let me know. Okay, let me know. Also, subscribe to the channel. Hit that like button because it helps put this podcast in front of people who like this kind of content. But another way you can do that is to share it with people you know would enjoy it. So it doesn't matter if you go to your Facebook group or you go to Twitter or you go to Instagram. If you share it, we can all have the same conversation right here. All right. That's going to do it for me. Until next time, y'all. I'm not a critic. I'm a fan. And I don't play the flute. Peace.